Well, it's Saturday. We don't do normally customer repairs on a Saturday, but we got so behind spending 4 days with that Beta 1000. Not because of the set being that dodgy, but because of other commitments that I had on. And we have to remember that the two-way radio side of this business is secondary to other things. So this is the one I've been looking forward to doing, and you know what? I reckon this is going to be the easiest fix. Now, I'm going to do this case for him as a freebie, just as part of this demonstration. So if the customer watches this before, good grief, I can't get those out, before this video happens, then he mustn't be scared. I've got some little pliers here. I wonder if they'll shift. Yeah, I've got exceptionally strong fingers, but I couldn't shift that. There we are. So once again on video, we'll record the fact it's got two side screws, which are a bit like rocking horse droppings in their rarity. So I'm going to take all the lids off this radio, screws missing there. I'll put the soldering iron on because the speaker's going to need, oh yes, screws missing there. Oh, the screws are all missing from the lower case. The power lead's missing, and we will do that whether the customer wants that or not. Not sure about that dent. I'm not really that bothered about that dent. See, in actual fact, that looks pretty immaculate inside. I'll also need to unscrew the speaker, because we're not going to repaint the speaker with the screws and clips in place. There's nothing worse than a painted over screw. We don't do amateur radio repairs, as you all well know, but one of our friends in the radio club has got a box of Duff Yaesu 290 sets, and he just wants me to run through them to make sure if any are repairable. I said to him, we don't do SSB, so he just wants to kind of see if anything's doable with them. Well, that's a bit better, isn't it? I've kind of unbent that a bit. It's less obvious that it's being dragged through a hedge backwards. Good. So we'll go to the organ workshop and I'll just sand those down. What I'm going to do here though, just before we go to the organ workshop, that means using a different format on the video, and so that will really slow up the editing, but it doesn't matter. I want to do this demonstration, so that will get done. If the radio's repairable, we'll get rid of that and put the proper plugs and sockets on. So I'll throw that away. So the blue one is negative, in line with UK mains wiring, and the brown one is positive, in line with UK mains wiring. Before we can even connect this setup, it has struck me we need to do a microphone. And it's no good as getting the standard Cybernet microphone out on a Maxcom radio. What is it anyway? Oh, it's a Maxcom 4E. Yeah. So there's a Maxcom Super 4E, if any of you are aware of that, and that has a green display. So these are 5-pin DIN. We use these expensive Rian gold-plated audio plugs. The trouble with DINs, you've either got those 25p plastic ones that break at the drop of a hat, and you know they always end up on the floor and get trodden on, and the plugs get misshapen. So we may as well just put real good quality plugs on in the first place, and then the customer hasn't got that problem. And I buy these in sufficient quantity for them to be a reasonable price. Could do with, this is where you could do with some WD-40, and there isn't a WD-40 on, just as a lubricant. We'll use the expensive Service-Sol switch cleaner because it's got some lubrication within that. So we'll just cut the end off that. There's two pairs of side cutters you see on here. There's the more blunt pair, which are a bit bigger, and there's the really sharp pair, which are these. So you see I cut through I just nipped through the outer sheath with the sharp ones and then pulled it off with the less sharp ones. I've not got Lindstrom cutters. I think the most expensive ones are those black ones, which are £8.99 RS cutters. When I started soon after I started my apprenticeship in church pipe organ restoration, which was a full 7-year apprenticeship, I decided it would be useful to buy some power tools, as in cordless power tools, and we're going back to the very early 80s, about the same age as these. And there wasn't really, it was all in its infancy, there wasn't really that much on the market, and I bought a Black & Decker professional range cordless drill. In fact, I bought 2 of them, and I paid for an extra battery, which were nickel cadmium, and it all worked very well. Each one had to go back in warranty, unfortunately, to have the switch replaced, and I subsequently have to have one more switch replaced out of warranty. In fact, I probably did it myself and bought the switch in, but that was disappointing. But they worked well, and when I started working at Nottingham Radio, and some of that work involved fitting two-way radios into vehicles, I thought I needed new batteries for these Black & Decker drills. So when I looked at the price, I thought, well, it's actually cheaper to buy some cheap new ones. So I went to the local DIY place and bought some. Oh, by the way, they were 7.2 volts, the Black & Decker ones, and they were £100 each, the drills. And so I went to the local DIY place and I bought some relatively cheap £29.99 cordless drills, and you know what, they worked as well as the Black & Decker ones had done, but of course we're now moving 10 years on. And subsequently, as those batteries have failed, we've bought them from Aldi, like 14 volt cordless drills, and they actually work better than the £100 Black & Decker did of the early 80s. So you won't find me usually buying top brand power tools. Hopefully nobody would nick my Aldi own brand ones. It's a bit like that multimeter I use. That's an Aldi £14.99 or £19.99 multimeter. and yeah, we've got Avo 7, couple of Avo 8s, and they in the UK are the industry standard. We've got electronic voltmeter, and you know, when we're looking at service manuals, and especially on all vintage audio equipment, and those voltages are with reference to an Avo 8, and of course at 20,000 ohms a volt it's drawing some current, and so it can affect the readings between using a digital multimeter and that Avo 8 analog meter. And there's going to be times when we need to get the Avo 8 out because that's not the right diagram, because we need to know exactly. But most of the time that £14.99 Aldi multimeter is absolutely fine. Well, we're going to pause the video because I haven't got on here the crib sheet to tell me what pin goes where on a Maxcom mic. I don't know where it's gone, but we'll go looking for it. Okay, so once again we're in the church organ workshop, and it's so straightforward. It's going to be just wet and dry paper and running over this with an orbital sander. It can of course be done by hand. The idea isn't to make it new, it's to make it so that we've got rid of the majority of the rust and it isn't going to look all pitted and come back in 2 minutes flat. Bit more difficult on that side because of the speaker grill. Now all we want is a bit of kitchen paper, methylated spirits. I don't know what they call that in the United States. So we're using this as an alcohol wipe. Go over that twice, once with the dirty one and then with the clean one. It's got plenty of rust now on our cloth, so I can discard. That'll burn well, won't it? I did bring another piece across. I did, you know. Well, that wasn't planned. Can I find it? Of course I can't. Okay, we'll use one of the church organ dusters instead. I can put this in with Mr. Chippy's washing then. So we'll pop these across the other building. We've done this before, sprayed them on the top of the hot tub on some newspaper. So we'll go across there and we'll do the first coat. Okay, I did leave the background music on a bit in here. Right, let's see.
plan is to do a couple of coats of this. I'm not doing them all on video, so we'll let that dry. And then we'll come back to the video for the top coat. I'm going to rub down in between with just A4 plain paper. I'll show you that. Okay, so I've just rubbed it over with a bit of plain paper, and we'll just go over now with the second coat. We're doing a third on this one. Okay, so we've done 3 coats of undercoat, and now we'll give it the first. I'm going to do this one satin black. Normally do them matte. Nothing like experimenting with somebody else's set. Probably be 3 coats of this. And that will do for this session. We'll come back on the third one, I think. Okay, so we'll do this is the second coat, so we'll just give that a quick rub over. You can buy a paper called flower paper, but I might as well use a piece of A4 printer paper. See how that goes.
Okay, go back into record. It was actually quicker to print. I found this on the internet. It's got the pin out and it's got the adjustments. I don't know who's done that, but that was useful. It actually saved me looking it up on our own file. So that's us wired. It's audio screen, which we put sleeving on, PTT, receive and blank. So put that together. Use those. I don't tend to use a crimping tool for these because it can end up being too tight. I've got better control that way. Right, so hopefully we can slide the boot on. There's nothing worse than doing a nice wiring job and then you've forgotten to put the cover down the wire. And it's never as neat the second time around. So he did say he wanted a mic, so that's something we are doing for the customer. Push that down a bit further. No idea where the Phillips little screwdriver's gone, so we'll use the wrong one. Right, time to connect it to the test equipment. Once again, I've got my eye on the time. A relative of one of my elderly parishioners who I help, she's late 80s, I sent her a mobile phone. So not sent a SIM card with it. I'm not quite sure what she's expected to do with it. Anyway, she's elected to send it back, so going around with the labels. Why would a relative suddenly buy an elderly relative a cordless phone, a mobile phone, when the lady has a landline phone, and she's a lady who is very reluctant to do anything different? So I'm not sure about that. I think a cordless phone would have been better, and it would have been on the same number and have no inherent extra expense. But I'm not the relative. I'm just I just do as I'm told. Okay, the 13 point something volts, and we've got nothing. Well, that does surprise me. Don't say we've got a duff fuse. Yeah, we've got a blown fuse. Ooh. So, the fact they put the fuse in the negative line, I'm just going to put that into my, because we're going to chop this off anyway. We're just going to see whether it shuts down my power supply. The answer is it doesn't shut down my power supply. Okay, so we're now lit up. No meter lamp. And I don't think we've got them in stock at the moment either. They're on back order, and delivery is like months away. Right. We'll plug the instrument extension speakers in. Slightly dirty controls there, can deal with that. We never did make any notes on the Cybernet Beta 1000 because it was so dodgy. It kept going through different chassis, didn't it? So we'll do the Maxcom 4E. Let's put picture on. Wrong set of pictures. Let's go to the right camera. There we go. So we're on channel 20. The radio's transmitting. It's doing 3 watts. Deviation, wallow, 1.9 kilohertz. That tells me it's not being messed with. Frequency, we can do that immediately. Switch that to there. I've got a plastic bag in front of the thing. Could have said an old bag there, couldn't I? So it should be 2779125. Of course, it's dropped. Frequency 2779075. It's still in spec. A bit like some new sets as low as that. That doesn't want to fit, and we'll go on to the ceramic one anyway. There we go. It's still pulled up. Because some of these 38, 39-year-old sets, they're not always pulling up these days, but that's fine. Good, that's that done. Let's check receive out. So we've got 0.3 microvolts on the signal generator, so it's only doing about 8 dB cyanide for that, so let's just bring the signal up for 12 dB cyanide. RX, it is doing 0.42 microvolts for 12 dB cyanide, and actually that's okay. I think it says, if I remember rightly, it's better than 0.5, so that's fine. So this radio is working, and it's just what I thought. The one with the rough case and the dent in the grill and all the wires dangling out of the back is actually the only set in the batch which is a worker. So we could have used this as it arrived and it would work. However, my job is to optimize it. We've run out of time, but let's just run through some of this. So we'll switch this back to there, and let's just tune up this transmitter. There we have, spot on 4 watts. Excellent. So let's see if the meter reads anything like 4 watts, if we can see the meter. Because it bangs across to beyond 5. It's pretty faded, it's been in a light position. And we may as well use this thing somebody's done. 103 is the meter preset. Saves me digging out my version. Need a smaller tool for that. So key up. Mr. Chippy isn't here at present, so this won't get a on the air test today. He went back home to, I say Bradford, but he lives at Shipley in West Yorkshire. I think he's just gone for the weekend, and then he'll be back. So that's done. Deviation, that wanted to pop up a bit, we do remember. We remember because we wrote it down. So it's that preset. Wow, that's too much. Let's try it there. Wallop. No, that's not enough. Let's try it there. Wallop. 1 2 1 2. This is interesting. Wallow. 1 2 wallow. You know what? It could just do with a fraction more still. See if that's too much. Wallow, it's too much. Wallow. 1 2 1 2. Do you know what? That's too little. Wallow. 1 2. What a set. Don't often have this problem. Wallow. 1 2 1 2. Wallow. I think that's about where we need to be. So that's transmit done. It's got low power on this, hasn't it? So we can do that. Switch to low power. It's supposed to be 0.4 of a watt. It's 0.4 something of a watt. There's the low power adjustment. Spot on 0.4. Return that to normal. Now we're going to receive. Now, as I've said many times before, on the Maxcom chassis, which is what the Maxcom is, the discriminator, or the FM detector, whatever you want to call it, can be something that goes out as a matter of course. So I put an S9 equivalent signal onto the signal generator. We're going to switch to the oscilloscope, and we're just going to, I've turned the bench light off so you can see it. We're just going to adjust that for maximum recovered audio. As I said before, the oscilloscope is simply connected across the extension speaker. It's a 2 megs oscilloscope. Oh no, it's a 10 meg oscilloscope, but it doesn't matter what it is. All you're looking at is audio. A lot of people think they need a 30 meg scope to look at CBs. We're not looking at 27 megs, we're looking at audio. There we go. I think there was a slight improvement there. Hard to tell when you've undone it to redo it. So we'll go over to the cyanide meter. And we want about 4 dB showing. Turn the volume down a bit so that people with headphones and dogs aren't affected. So just run through the front end. No improvement. Probably the tiniest improvement. Just put more signal on. And finally, let's see what we're getting now. Well, it is a bit better. That's 3 microvolts. If you remember when we started off, it was 6. It's now about 10, isn't it? It's 8, 9, 10. So we'll get a reading now for 12 dB. I would say that's 12 dB, and it's now 0.39. No, it's 0.38. I'm not. So it's going to now receive another 100 yards, isn't it? That's done. So now we'll go back to an S9 signal on the signal generator. So we're at 100 microvolts, and we want to make sure this meter is reading 9. Now, they're not always adjustable, and this isn't adjustable. What they do, there's a preset on the back of the meter on some of these, and as you know, we don't do modifications. That's how the set's supposed to be. So what does it read? It actually is, for S9, instead of it being 100 microvolts, it's 240 microvolts for S9. So you'd say it was a slightly lazy needle. But that is how it's manufactured. Squelch. So stay on there. I'm going to turn the squelch to full, and I want this to be so that we can squelch out right up to 100 microvolts. So 0.3 microvolts, 1 microvolt, 3 microvolts, 10 microvolts, 30 microvolts, 100 microvolts. I want it to come in. 300 microvolts, 1 millivolt, 300 millivolts. Oh, it just never ever comes in. That's a pretty pointless squelch if it never ever comes in at full. So it's this preset. I will now set that back to 30. That's it, spot on. So it's squelching out 30 microvolts, it's coming in at 100 microvolts. So now we'll do the opposite, we'll park the signal generator and we'll turn it to standby. So we're now at 0.3 of a microvolt. We'll set the squelch on the radio to threshold and switch the signal generator back on. It's come straight in. So it's dropping off at 0.2 of a microvolt and it's coming in at 0.31 of a microvolt. That's a lovely squelch. Well, as far as I can see, that's the radio done. So it's worth now me spending some time. Actually, I don't know whether we're going to get Mr. Chippy to do those when he comes back. But on the other hand, I don't want to leave it on the bench for several days. So I'm going to go and give my elderly friend a returns label 7.5 miles away at 0 cost to anybody, and I'll go do some shopping while I'm there. Okay, so now we've got the radio back and put back together, and I put the front to the dishwasher and the knobs to the dishwasher while we were at it, so it's a bit more presentable. Now it's had a bit of a respray. Maybe the customer might want to rub it back down to rust and whatever, but there we go. Let's switch it on. Oh dear, we're not getting anywhere here. Okay, so it's Sunday morning. I've got 25 minutes before we go to the first church. Where am I on today? I'm on at Haydor in the morning. Yes. So I did have a snag with this, and that was the PA switch didn't want to come back to CB. So clean the contacts on that, and we now have operation. And over to PA and back to CB. One Anna Roger. Oh, we've got no TX light. Okay, off with the lids again. Let's see whether we can sort that. Okay, we'll have another go, having changed the LED. They're 3mm red LEDs. Faff to get to, but it's done. So we'll give it another go. One Anna Roger. Oh, we're on low power. One Anna Roger. Okay, so that concludes the Maxcom 4E, and one or two things to do to that, and I was caught out by that squelch control, because when you're putting knobs back on, you really need to set that so that it's level, and then when we switched it back on again, there was no CB action. So we'll leave it at that, and won't be on the air test till Mr. Chippy comes back again, so we'll probably do some other things rather than leave a pile of CBs not done. So thank you for watching the Maxcom 4E from 1981.